Welcome to Breakout Investors. Today we are speaking with the management of Perma-Fix Environmental Services, ticker PESI, specifically the company's CEO, Mark Duff. Joining me on today's call is Breakout investor Aaron Warwick. This call is being recorded on June 6, 2024, and will be distributed via the Breakout Investor channel on YouTube and our Substack network. Supporting materials for today's discussion will be posted on Breakout Investors platform, available at breakoutinvestors.com. The application and much of the research content is free. Please join us there. For those of you already on the Breakout Investors platform, you can share your questions for the company using the Discuss tab on the PESI ticker symbol room or on our WhatsApp room as well. So let's get the call started by me handing it over to Aaron for some opening remarks. Aaron?
Hey, everybody. Mark, glad to have you here. Really appreciate your time. We've been following the company for a while now at Breakout, and you guys have made a lot of progress, surprised us all in a positive way with what you've been talking about here recently with the PFAS opportunity. And I guess, mostly we had talked about just doing a Q&A, but I did want to, see if there's anything that you want to say by way of introduction about the business. I think most of the people on this call are probably fairly familiar with the company, but just for anyone who isn't, maybe just a real quick overview.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for everyone for joining, and we're always honored to have folks interested in Perma-Fix as a company, as an investment. We are excited about where we are right now, and what is coming forward in the 25-26 timeframe, specifically. And there's a lot of excitement within the company and within our industry as far as what's going on. We've been working on the initiatives that we're talking about through the last few weeks for 5 to 10 years. So it's really not anything new. However, what's been happening is a significant amount of risk and uncertainty have been mitigated due to progress made across all fronts, along with the new technology for PFAS and a few other things that have occurred in regards to winning the job in Italy and positioning for some other high win probability opportunities as well along the way. So it is a lot of things have occurred in the last 6 months, particularly relative to Hanford. When we tie all that together, it's put us in a position now where we have some certainty that 25 will actually start demonstrating some of these initiatives and the revenues that come along with those. So we're very excited about that.
So Mark, some people have asked me, what about the PFAS situation, and I want to talk about that later. Obviously, it's increased the interest in your company. But they asked me, what would happen if the PFAS, if they're not able to do it on scale? And kind of the way that I explain it to people is the way I think about it myself is I see that, while you are spending some money on it and have spent money on it, and obviously part of your capital raise recently was related to your capital needs there. The way I kind of look at it is it's almost like, from the stock investing standpoint, it's like a free call option in the sense that, it's not like your entire company has been built on or is tied to the PFAS opportunity. You have your core business that's been the Perma-Fix business for a long time, and we're really seeing that pick up related to the things that you talked about, be it Hanford or international. So I want to focus on that first and see if you can tell us, what is going on with Hanford from your perspective. What changes have you seen in terms of communication from them, and just in general, like it appears, all signs seem to point towards them actually, after decades of delaying, really going at it hard here in 2025 and getting the treatment and the cleanup started. So what can you say to that?
Yeah, boy, there's a lot of things changing in Hanford. We look at Hanford in regards to Perma-Fix specifically as two separate buckets. The first is being obviously DFLAW. DFLAW plant, as you know, has been in construction for almost 25 years. And the recent settlement agreement that they have signed with the tri-party agreement with the state and regulators is very important to understand, and that is that they committed to their schedule, and they've had a difficult time doing that since 2019. now they're, as you and I have actually talked, Aaron, they're months away instead of years away. I like the way that you put that before. And we're sitting right at about 12 months from now. DOE is committing to the August 1 deadline for starting, and we're optimistic that they're going to beat that by a little bit. But they typically, when they make commitments like that, have some cushion. But that is their deadline. It is a legally binding document. Obviously, it's in draft form. It has to go through public comment, but we'll likely get through public comment and move forward. So that's a very important component. We don't have all the details, but we are in communication with them. We expect one melter to start up first, and then the second one, they seem to be staggered in all their testing as well. And that one melter should generate a sustainable waste stream for the next period of time. And so we've built that into our pro forma to begin really rolling in Q4 of 25. Hopefully it'll be before that. We do expect them to start some surrogate testing with spike radionuclides in their waste forms before that, but we're not sure how much waste is that going to generate. So pretty high probability that they're on track. We've all seen the record of decision from January of 23, so we're locked in very well. They're depending on us. I've had meetings with DOE headquarters numerous times. They view us as a partner on this, not formally, but that type of relationship. And we're really excited about the probability of that occurring on schedule in late 25. And the other bucket is the other recent surprise in the last 2 quarters was the Systems 10 document in February, followed by the settlement agreement, which both pointed to DOE's commitment to implement grouting for the other half of the tank farms, and to make a commitment to have 22 tanks retrieved and treated and grouted for offsite disposal by 2040. So 15 years or so to get that done. We're estimating that they'll be pumping 2 to 3 million gallons a year when they get rolling. The program seems to be going very well. There's some off ramps here and there, but overall, I think once DOE starts realizing the value of grouting commercially, that it'll be something that is very smooth and very high value, requiring no investment by DOE, and very safe and low risk. So both those seem to be moving. And there's more risk and delays associated with grouting than there is in DFLAW, but this administration just has recently really embraced the whole concept of we've got to show Congress that we're making progress. And both of these components, grouting and DFLAW, really underscore that commitment by DOE headquarters and the site office at Hanford. And we're glad to be a part of it because it has been treading water. It seems like treading water for 10, 15 years.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, each of these components, so let's just start with the DFLAW, with the secondary waste that you'll be treating from that alone would double your current waste treatment business. Is that correct?
Yeah, we generally view our waste treatment business at about 3.5 to 4,000 cubic meters of waste a year, and it varies dramatically depending on what waste streams you're getting each year, and that kind of thing. But just in that ballpark, and DOE has said in the ROD that this is about 8,000 cubic meters a year. So it does basically double all of our plants combined do about 4,000. So it should double our revenue. Again, it depends on the mix, depends on the characteristics, and that type of thing. But generally,
but when you look at it over a 10-year period, it's basically And then the same. It seems to me like if you get a significant portion, say even a million gallons a year of the grout, that also could double your current business from waste treatment business from a revenue treatment standpoint. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that'd be another. Yeah, so we'd basically be pretty close to doubling it as well alone. And the grouting is exciting for us because we've done so much grouting. We're so comfortable with it.
Right.
And the raise that we recently completed will allow us to automate and build new equipment to ramp up to the large volumes, and to make sure we're ready for that DFLAW waste as well. We're pretty close to being ready for DFLAW now, but the grouting does take some investment to be able to handle large volumes.
Yeah.
We can do 300, 500,000 gallons a year now without any problem, but we'll need to make that investment to
Right.
get to 1 million.
So, what gives you the comfort? I guess, like, there was some concern, I guess, because they changed the whole they had the different phases of treatment, or what do they call it? The testing phase. Like, you guys had done phase one, it was small amount.
TBI, the test
Yeah,
bed,
the TB.
test bed.
So it sounds like now they're going to ship some of that for other commercial companies to test, or to see if they can handle it. What gives you comfort that you're going to win a material amount of that business, and they're not going to send it off-site?
Yeah, I'm glad you
Well,
asked
I
that
mean, I guess
question.
technically you're off-site too, but you know what I mean? How
Right.
to,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that because there's a lot of confusion around that. So Perma-Fix and we had some partners came up with this whole test bed initiative about 10 years ago as a way to push grouting as a consideration by DOE. And Congress funded it with a line item at that point, funded it again in 2020 and 2022. Congress really recognized the importance of doing this. So did the National Academy of Sciences and GAO, and got that ball rolling. When Congress in the 22 timeframe, I believe it was, came out with their guidance in their budget, they specifically said DOE move forward with grouting and I can't remember the exact words, but basically in an aggressive manner as a priority, but make sure that you DOE are defining, quote, multiple pathways, unquote. And that's also kind of mentioned or is mentioned in executive summary for the National Academy of Sciences report as well. So the multiple pathways is viewed by DOE, they mentioned this to me before, as we got to have some competition.
Right.
Which is every government agencies, obviously everybody, not just government agencies, desire to have competition
Right.
for
Yeah.
all the obvious reasons. So DOE, has had some expressions of interest go out. They've combed, who's available, and have figured out, through that process that there's 3 companies available: Perma-Fix, Energy Solutions, and WCS. And Perma-Fix has already demonstrated they can do it. So they are looking for these other 2 facilities to try it out. And knowing that, as you well know, Aaron, from some of the public hearings, there's hurdles along the way. So
Yeah.
they're testing, can they get over those hurdles? And can these facilities handle the waste and meet all the criteria for performance of grouting, which is an important component. To answer your question is, why do we have comfort? The bottom line is this, is our option that we're providing DOE is to grout the waste just outside the gates of the Hanford plant, which will be brought to us in totes, on a truck, and about 10 miles from the actual tanks themselves. We will grout it, put it into basically about a 1 meter cubed box, and stack those up and ship those by rail for permanent disposal at those 2 facilities. So you'll have a grouted form of stable waste on rail cars, large number of rail cars at one time, shipped out of state. That's very accepted by the local tribes, which you have to go through to get these things going south, and as well as the state of Oregon. The alternative is to ship tanker trucks from the tank farms of untreated waste, and I use that word very loosely. It has been stripped of some of the radionuclides,
Right.
but if it's not grouted yet. Shipping those waste by tanker truck at about 4,000 gallons a truck down to those 2 sites and grouting them on their sites. It's a viable approach. DOE ships waste all the time in liquid form, but the concern is, do they have to? Number one. Number two, there's public perception, and it's rightfully so. You're shipping liquid waste in very large numbers of tanker trucks when you could ship it by rail in grouted form. So there's an environmental risk consideration. All this is defined in the environmental impact statement that's already been sent out and approved. So I'm just kind of repeating what it says. So the question you had is, why do we feel comfort? We still feel like we're still the logical choice from an environmental risk perspective. We have committed to unionizing our plant to do this work, to support the local community, and to support as many jobs as we can, in particular union jobs. And we've demonstrated we do this every day. But we certainly are very respectful of the fact that DOE needs competition. If something ever happens to Perma-Fix, we ever go have an outage, they should have a backup plan. And so we're very supportive and understanding, hey, you guys got to have alternatives. And this test bed initiative, the phase you're questioning, which is 1,000 gallons to each one of those two sites, will demonstrate that there's multiple ways to do this, multiple pathways, and they can reduce that risk in the future.
Okay.
So we do remain confident. That's why we projected, to answer your question. We projected about 50% of the volume, and we feel like we'll be very cost competitive, maybe even cheaper, but we still feel like we'll be the logical choice for a significant portion of that waste.
Right. Last question then, as it relates to Hanford, you did mention something about the current administration wanting to show progress there. What is the thought? And I'm not asking, a political question in terms of what your preferences are or anything, but if the Trump administration or a Trump administration were to come back, does that change anything on Hanford that you would see, or be positive, negative, neutral?
No, I really don't. One thing that we've learned, having been on this project for almost 10 years, is that the congressional delegation from the state of Washington, specifically Patty Murray and Senator Patty Murray and Senator Marie Cantwell, are very, very up to speed on Hanford. Shockingly, how tuned they are to it and all the components of it. And they're very powerful in the Senate, and they're very supportive of Hanford and all these initiatives we're discussing. I would be really shocked if there's ever any tweaking to the budget, any significant tweaking to the budget, because of the strength of those two senators and the respect they get in Congress. So I don't see any change occurring from administration change.
Well, there are some other things, if we have time later, we'll ask about sort of your core business, your traditional business. But obviously one of the most important things too that people want to hear about is the PFAS opportunity and where that stands right now. So where are you guys right now in terms of the process of getting that first plant up and running?
Yeah, so things are moving quickly. We're in fabrication phase right now. So we have a contract in place with a company called Process Bearing out of Birmingham, and have very good relationships with them. They're giving us a significant priority in their fab shop and working with us through engineering concerns right now. That we are on track for delivery in early September to support commissioning and start up in 1st of October, or at least early October. That system will do about 1,000 gallon at a time. We're still hoping and focusing on get through 1,000 gallon in 2 to 4 hours. But our engineers are telling me, hey, that might be a little optimistic initially. There's going to be some tweaks we need to make to engineering and chemistry to improve that. But that's the target. So we're pretty confident, just being conservative, that we'll at least be able to do 1,000 gallons a day. And our biggest goal is to show that it works, and then really focus on making it better. In parallel with that, and that's just for liquids, we're also working nice parallel paths for solids, which is an even bigger market and longer term market, as well as granulated activated carbon, what they call GAC, which is being used a lot now for PFAS filtering, and be able to treat that, as well as biosludges. So we're working through all those in parallel. We have separate teams doing those, and working together on that, so to make sure everything kind of comes together here in early 25, and really be able to get rolling. I will say this is the PFAS market is very interesting, and when you really get into it, we've been through a lot of conferences here the last couple of weeks. our folks have, and on the sales side and marketing side, there's competition out there. It seems like almost all of our competitors are pretty close to where we are. No one is that we've been able to see is at production levels yet, and except for deep well injection. Everyone else that's trying to destroy it or filter it or do something else with it, or at least knock it down in concentration, is still in the development phases with limited backlog. So there's not a lot of movement on sales and that type of thing. People are positioning and getting infrastructure and sales and teams and technology all put together. All real seem to be real close to where we are. Some maybe a little bit farther than others, a month, a couple months here and there. But it's a race. It's an exciting race. It's very interesting to see how everyone's pulling their resources together to make this happen in 25, knowing full well that the reason 25 is so important for the whole industry is that's when EPA is likely to make their ruling on CERCLA and putting it into an enforcement program. So that's generally where we are. We are seeing very positive results on solids. We kind of view the whole what we call GAC, which is the filtration media, activated carbon media, as being a really strong tangential component of this market, along with water and what they call AFFF, which is firefighting foam. There's lots of soil remediation that's also out there. We see that taking a little longer to perfect and develop a way of treating soil on an economical basis in large volumes. The other ones, water and filter media can be done, at our plant and didn't have to be quite as mobile. So we see that all coming together in 25, and our projections are to really see that take off in about midway through 25 with some significant revenue generation, and then go up from there. And that's basically somewhat conservative in our pro forma, with the understanding that we have a lot of improvements and optimizations to do to our system and the technology along the way.
And it sounds like you've got quite a backlog of potential customers already.
We have a backlog of potential customers, and that concerns me a little bit, Aaron. The one thing, we have a couple of advantages, and one of those advantages is we're in this business, and we've been in it our whole careers for the most part. So we have the network. We have a large network of customers that know what we can do and trust us and have confidence in us. We're working with those customers right now to receive samples, and that's exactly our approach to this: is trying to get the samples from as many people as we can. We take those samples in, we run it through a system that we show them it works. We should give them independently verified analytical data, so they know, hey, this did work. And so when this system is close to operation, then we can turn on the spigot and start getting a backlog. And that's been our kind of approach to this whole thing. So we do have samples coming in, and everybody's got different stuff, different concentrations, different media, different other chemicals in it besides PFAS. And we're working through each one of those now. And hopefully by October, we'll have an initial backlog with the ability to really turn on heavily in Q4 this year.
So I heard that there's at least one or two universities that are looking to publish about your method. Is that accurate?
We have two partners that we're working with. One I don't think we've disclosed publicly, but Florida's been helping us on University of Florida on verification analytical. We have other organizations we're working with that I don't believe are signed yet, but are very close, that have PFAS development programs internally, and grad students that have been focused on this. And hopefully we'll have this signed in the next couple of weeks. We can do a press release about it, and work with them in partnerships for the advancement of some of the solid, particularly soils, as it relates to agriculture, and a few other solid medias that we're working on. So yeah, we are working with them, and are optimistic that once we get those things in place, we'll see an acceleration in some of that.
Mm-hmm. And so one thing I've heard about before, some other companies that have had chemical processes to try to deal with the PFAS, worked on a small scale, but not as well on a large scale due to different weights of the different types of materials and chemicals and so forth. And I guess what gives you confidence that this will be fairly easily applicable, not just to the small levels that you're treating now, but to these much larger levels?
Looking at our competition, Aaron, for supercritical water oxidation, some of the electrolysis oxidation approaches that we've seen, which obviously we're not experts on since we're not developing that, but looking at what these systems do and how they operate generally, our system is very simple. It's very inexpensive. It goes on a small skid on the back of a truck, so it's somewhat mobile, and it doesn't require significant heat. This can run very efficiently at 100 degrees C, but it can also run at ambient, so room temperature basically. It just takes longer.
Okay.
Because it will work at ambient temperatures. It opens up the door to a lot of other applications in the field where you may not have the ability to heat up, but it does take longer. Now, how much longer at volume, that's one thing we'll have to work out. But the chemistry still works and the system still works. So if you heat it up, that's how you get to 2 hours to turn over 1,000 gallons.
I
So
see.
to answer your question, the simplicity of ours is outstanding, which also means that we can run efficiently and economically, and the duplication of our system in multiple ways is not going to be terribly expensive.
Yeah. And is this, I mean, it sounded like when I first talked to you about this, that you have these plants running pretty much 24/7. Is that still the case?
Right now, we're not necessarily assuming that in our pro forma for revenue, but there's no reason they couldn't. It takes 2 to 4 people to operate a system per shift. What we're not certain, reason I'm kind of hesitant on that, Aaron, is because we're not certain, how much maintenance is going to be, how difficult it's going to be to operate it until we actually start. Are we going to require 6 hours of downtime or 4 hours of cooling down time to pull your next batch in or not?
Sure.
Those are the things I don't want to say. It certainly seems to me that we should be able to do at least 2 batches a day, and 3 shifts maybe. But right now, our engineering staff is telling me to calm down and only commit to 1. But I
Yeah.
think we'll be able to get over those hurdles in the
And
first tranche.
and that's what's in your pro forma. So I mean, I guess there's potential upside, but
Yeah.
what you're projecting is, more conservative, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Has there been any interest in partnering with you, larger companies? Has there been interest in from other companies licensing your technology? What's your current thinking and approach on that type of stuff? Because it seems like
Yeah.
it's such a big problem that it's probably something that's bigger than what Perma-Fix can address
It
themselves.
absolutely is bigger. We keep telling our staff that as well, to think bigger than Perma-Fix. We definitely need partners, and we've had dozens of conversations with large businesses and strategic businesses that are a little smaller, that are all in all different facets of the life cycle of PFAS, whether it's filtration or whether it's remediation, whether it's just standing inventory. And so we've met with numerous companies to access their clients, first of all, also to assist in the overall applications itself, but primarily through business development partnerships, and being able to sign up with a big firm that's got lots of clients with lots of inventory, to work together to make their inventories go away for their clients. And that's what we're really pushing towards. We do have some partnerships in regards to technology, some other that we're working towards, where basically another technology gets the concentrations to a certain level, and we take it to the final levels and destroy it, and seeing if we can work collaboratively on that. So we are spending a lot of time on that with the team that we've got. We can't announce anything yet, but we are pretty close in a couple. Most large businesses are talking to all the people playing in this, and they're also hesitant to sign anything until everybody's operationally or
Yeah, I was going to say,
some,
I'm sure they're wanting to see it at a larger
right,
scale.
exactly. So we're communicating with them as far as progress and how things are moving forward.
Excellent. Okay, well, maybe switching gears again, getting off of PFAS and back to your current core business. You had mentioned at the beginning about the contract in Italy being a big deal for you guys and entering that market. It sounds like, I think you said Germany or Central Europe. There could be somewhere in Central Europe could be another contract coming soon. Can you just give us an update on that international and specifically the European front, how things are progressing there?
Yeah, so we did win the 50 million euro contract out of ISPRA, Italy, which is through the European Commission and the Joint Research Council, our center out of Northern Italy. And that project's rolling very well. It is about 2 years of paperwork and approvals and permits through the client there. So we provide most of the paperwork to them already, and things are in process. It moves very, very slowly. But the important thing is that the contract is in place. We should start seeing significant revenue on waste treatment in the early 25 time or late 25, early 26 time frame. And that could move depending on how fast the documents get approved. But what it's really done, the important part of that, it's really opened the doors for us in Europe because it's such a large contract, a very high visibility contract in Italy for some very difficult waste streams to address the other very large inventories of waste throughout Europe, particularly Central Europe, Germany, Croatia, Slovenia, and Hungary, as well as the UK, where they've been storing waste for a very long time because there hasn't been a way to treat it. And that way I'm referring to really is incineration. And not rotary kiln incineration. To treat somebody's waste out of country, you have to do it in a batch process where you can give all of the residual back and have the assurance that all the residual is there. So you have to do it in a batch process, very much like a regular oven, as opposed to spraying something in. We're looking to deploy our technology, as we've said before, in the UK. We're working through the details on that. We do have a couple options we're looking at to optimize it. The productivity and efficiency of that model. We already have that plant designed conceptually, and we already have contracts for that up to almost 60% of the productivity of the plant or capacity of the plant nailed down contractually. So between our friends in Germany and some more south, as well as Italy, and we have a framework agreement with the UK. NDA, which is kind of a DOE type of arm over there for their waste streams. We have a great backlog ready to go. So we're all working very rapidly to get our agreements in place on a business sense and partnerships in place to start getting into hardcore design of the facility and to begin construction hopefully next year and have it operational in about 18 months. We're working with firms that like Westinghouse that have existing permits in place that we can tie into to cut out the regulatory delays, as well as facilities that have infrastructure in place that we can deploy our technology. But in a nutshell, Aaron, what we're really doing is deploying the technology just like we have at a Northwest plant, same exact type of technology but updated over there. Same performance, same way to operate it. We have lots of experience, 30 years of running this thing, and we should be able to deploy it pretty quickly once we get everything else worked out.
I think the last question or series of questions then would be about the OSMS. That's been everybody's been waiting on that for some time, I know. What are you hearing about that? You raised some capital recently. You already talked about. Is there enough in that raise to? I know that you'd have to probably have some capacity increases for if you win OSMS. Is that something you're prepared to deal with now if you do win it? And just what's the status of that overall?
Yeah, it's really difficult to understand procurements in the federal government because you just don't have any information, But I will say this is there was a round of final proposal revisions that were submitted in April by each of the teams. DOE has stated before that they're on track to have an award in place by the end of September. To do that, they'd have to make the award, and they've extended the contracts of the incumbents through the end of September. So one would assume from that, and we've been seeing, that validated, that they should have something awarded in Q3. And where that is in Q3 is really hard to say. It's really hard to gauge, the win probability. I will say we feel like there's 3 companies that are really out in front, and we're one of those 3s, or our team is. But I hate to speculate on any of that. We give it a 30-35% win probability to be conservative. If we awarded it, it really would be a jolt to the company. If we're not, we haven't included it in our pro forma at all. So it's a plus up. Same goes for West Valley. We think like we're a little stronger team there. The win probability is a little higher, but OSMS is certainly going to be a very exciting contract for us. Both will, relative to the contribution we're going to be making to the large team. So that one, the West Valley one, is looking more like Q4, and that should be an exciting time.
Well, I think that covers pretty much the whole business. Unless there's anything else that you wanted to specifically mention, I really appreciate your time and being with us and your explanations and helping us understand. I know there's a lot of technical terms, and takes a while to learn that, but you do a good job of explaining and helping us understand what's going on. So thank you for that.
Great. Okay, Aaron, appreciate your all's interest.
If you've got a couple more minutes, Mark, we did have a couple questions come in
Sure.
the chat. These are from Todd. Any idea on the ranges for price for PFAS gallon treated?
That's a really difficult question. As I mentioned, we were in Denver this week for the National PFAS Conference, which was a really good conference, about 1,200 people there. Every vendor was there, and we had the specific goal of trying to define the range of treatment costs or prices. And for total destruction, that range was somewhere between $10 a gallon at the very low end for some incineration to $50 a gallon, or somewhere in between. So very broad range, and we don't know, what characterization assumptions you can make in that range. Maybe some of it's higher. Doesn't seem like it's below 10. Even deep well injection, which is a very rudimentary way of getting rid of your PFAS, runs from what our research has told us, from about $6 a gallon to $18 a gallon. So we feel like if you're at 10, you're going to be at the bottom of the range, but I would expect it do much better than that, and per gallon.
Sounds good. The next question is, does your chemical production capacity, calcium fluoride, in any way limit your PFAS treatment throughput?
No, not that I'm aware of. It's probably, I don't think Lou's on the phone, but I would have to ask our engineer that, but I don't think so. Basically, that's the effluent. Calcium fluoride is the effluent from the process itself. What we're really finding is that everybody's got different types of PFAS, and everyone's got different goals for treatment. In other words, how much they can discharge. And what's not defined very well at this point in time is how low do you have to be to be able to discharge into a municipal sewer system versus having to grout it and put it into what they call a Subtitle D landfill that's got some, the authority to take it. And if it's a ladder, if you go to a landfill, you're going to have to spend a lot more of your margin, disposing of it. But if you can go obviously to a sewer, you're pretty much it's going down the drain. So we don't know. It depends on what people need to be compliant. Whether maybe you can don't have to run your equipment as long, and then you could rock it up for the same price as dumping it out of drain. All those kinds of things are total out there as variables that will be worked out after you're operating. So it's very difficult to determine, what kind of revenue you can do, how fast you can do it. That's just one set of variables that you got to consider. Did I answer your question on that? I may have veered off a little bit.
Based on the question, I think you probably touched on it good enough.
Okay.
Two more in the chat, and then we'll let you go. Given your PFAS treatment uses a pressurized tank, how can it treat water or soil where there has already been chemical spill into the environment?
That's really need to ask our engineers that to make sure I don't get that incorrect. But we're running at very low pressure, even if we're running it, in the reactor itself. The pressure in the reactor is below 150 psi, so it's not dramatic, unlike supercritical water oxidation, which is running at 200 bar plus. So it doesn't take a lot of pressure. It's the temperature, and what we call cooking it accelerates the chemical reaction. And when it comes to soils, we're still working through that. I don't want to get too much detail about what our designs are looking like. The soil technology has worked on the bench scale initially. We're moving towards pilot scale, so we know it works, but it's going to take some engineering considerations to mix it, obviously, and to deal with the pressure of this, regarding soil in your mixer, and we're just not sure how long it's going to take to be able to treat solids, and I think that's what we're working through on the pod scale right now.
Sounds good. And this last one's much less technical and easier for you to answer, I'm sure. Despite competition for PFAS, is it fair to assume that there's more than enough work for all competitors?
I really believe there is. We've done a pretty extensive market analysis for our business plan, and it is a dramatic amount of PFAS out there. What's really difficult to say is how much is going to come to market over what period of time. There's a lot of firefighting foam systems out there right now that people have taken all the firefighting foam out, put it in storage, and then they flush out the firefighting foam systems to clean them so they can put the other technology in that's replacing firefighting foam, at least the type of PFAS in it. That's all in storage, or people injecting it, or they're incinerating it. But most of it, from what we understand, there's a significant quantity in storage, both at DoD, Air Force bases, municipalities, large facilities like Amazon distribution centers. They go through this as well. They've had the same type of systems. Large buildings, warehouses have similar systems as well. What's difficult to really gauge at this point in time is how much people are funding it to get rid of it. Is it easier just to keep it stored for right now? Are they chomping at the bit to get it out of their hair? Or when does EPA implement enforcement criteria? Which again, we're anticipating a 25 timeframe for that. So it's really difficult to tell how it trickles out, overall, and how many companies are going to be out there receiving it and have the infrastructure to handle it and store it and have it perform and do it with value. In other words, who's cheaper and who's not. But to answer your question, our position is, or I should say, our feeling is, there's plenty to go around, and it's a long-term deal because it's not going to come to the market, in 25. It's going to be over the next 10 years.
Sounds
Hey, Mark.
good. And then we had one. Oh, go ahead.
Thanks, Josh. Excuse me, Josh. Mark, this is Todd Goodwin, the one who asked all those questions. I just want to follow up quickly and thank you for your time and your answers. Specifically with two of them, my question about the calcium fluoride, obviously I don't know what the input is. I know that's the output. My only question was, you talked about, shifts and cool down for the equipment. So we were looking more at the equipment as a potential bottleneck. If you got, let's just say, all the business there was out there all at once, you can only run so many thousands of gallons per day. I was only asking if your chemical inputs to destroy the PFAS, along with the temperature and pressure, if that is in any way a potential bottleneck, or is that kind of the easiest part?
Okay, that's a completely different question, Todd. I appreciate you asking it again. No, it's not. It's not a bottleneck at all. If It's interesting, we spend a lot of time on this, what we call unconstrained questions and planning. And the constraint is not the system at all. The constraint of productivity is getting enough of it to your facility to keep it operating. Because we feel like we could build a bunch of these things. They're not really expensive, and we can really get rolling. The constraint is not the chemicals. It's how fast can you get it to your facility in storage, in your tank farm, to run it through your equipment as fast as you can. And obviously, if you want to do 1,000 gallon every couple hours, that's going to constrain you a good bit. But we view more of the constraint right now is how can we get 100,000 gallons in your tank farm quickly, so we can keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And that's more the constraint right now is logistics and storage and delivery.
Great. Thank you for the clarity. One other follow-up on my other question about the environmental soils and water. Obviously the firefighting foams, if you're flushing out a tank, it's sort of easy, I guess, to put the stuff out of their tank into yours and process it in your reactor. But, I've been reading a lot about the PFAS that's spilled, DuPont and all that. I live in North Carolina. It's a big problem here, where it's spilled into the water, into the soil, into the ground. And obviously, if you need a reactor or some contained system, from my uneducated point of view on the outside, I'm thinking, well, you can't put the ground into a tank. So, and you can't take, millions of gallons of water in a body of water and run it through and purify it. So I was wondering, is that just not on the table for your type of method, or is there some other way that it can be done? Because obviously you can't take soil, which has microbes and everything, and then put it at 100°C, because you'll kill all the life forms in the soil. So anyway, as much as you can say, I'm just more curious as to whether that's even a market for PESI.
Yeah, the soil for farmland particularly, yes, it is a market for PESI. We're not as much focused on groundwater with very low concentrations. Frankly, if you're very low concentrations, it's oftentimes it's viable just to filter it out. And filtering with activated carbon is not cheap. And you go through a lot of carbon. It's expensive. But if you're really low concentrations, your carbon goes a long ways. And it works. If you get up in concentrations, it gets too expensive, and you're better off treating it. So we're not going to be looking at millions and millions of gallons from groundwater, and being able to ship and having to ship it to us and that kind of stuff. I would assume in a case like that, you'd probably look at some way of filtering it, or concentrating it somehow, to then shipping it. And the soil side of the house, you described the biggest engineering challenge we have, and that is how do you not kill everything, all your organics? Our chemistry does not kill the organics. As you said, heat can. So we have to design or engineer use of the chemistry so that we're not killing everything. We're doing it at very low temperatures, and it's still effective. And that's a big challenge. Like I said, it did work on the bench scale, just using soil, but that's a big jump from bench scale to large volumes, and that's what we got to work out.
Okay, fantastic, and great explanation, and I wish you the best of success with all that. Thank you
Right.
again.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for your interest. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay.
Take care.
Neither Breakout Investors nor any of its affiliates makes any representation or warranty, express or implied, as the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information presented by this podcast, and any liability, including in respect to direct, indirect, or consequential loss or damage, therefore is expressly disclaimed. The views on this podcast expressed are those of the speaker and not Breakout Investors. No one on this podcast is an investment advisor, and no one is providing investment advice. Before investing in any company stock, you must do your own research. Thank you for listening.